Everyone knows if you've got a yearning to be racist, an urge, an itch you want to scratch, you've just got to be anti-white. And you can be as racist as you like. And when you get bored about that, you can be an anti-Semite. And man, you can indulge yourself. You can do whatever you like. And you know who will support you the most? The British government. So, by now, you'll be fully aware that the Alaa Abd El-Fatah scandal continues to rumble on. Although I fear, as a Rolling Stone, it is gathering no moss. I genuinely think this will blow over very quickly. I'm starting to get that impression, particularly after today. And we'll go into that in a minute. But we have essentially got a situation now where anything can be said against, I believe, two groups of people. White people and Jewish people. They are seen as the world's biggest oppressors from the ultra-liberal left perspective. And as such means that they are fair game. And for many, many years, in a Fabian-esque style, it has been chipped away that it is absolutely okay to be racist towards white people, to be anti-Semitic, and actually to deny that either exist. And that's how they gaslight you into making you believe that there is nothing going on. And I refuse to become apathetic about this. I refuse. Like I say, I think the Alaa Abd El-Fatah scandal will only continue, probably from the centre-right, right-wing political perspective. And is probably not gathering too much traction on the left because they are in complete and utter denial. That said, I did read in The Guardian today a story which covered the facts pretty well. It showed the tweets, it quoted the tweets, it said why people are upset about it, and rightly so. I think, even The Guardian have to admit this is a massive issue. And like I say, I refuse to get apathetic about this. And why do I think that this guy is racist? Why do I think that? Why should any of us think that? Well, look, we showed yesterday, and I showed in my video, the Alaa Abd El-Fatah scandal. The government is laughing at this video. You can go and see that. I'll put a link at the end. What I said in there was just what was happening in the moment. It was a rolling news story. I was on my way to do GB News Late Edition last night with Alex Armstrong, where I talked about it again, and I wanted to get my thoughts out. Well, today it's grown slightly. Al-Fatah has released a statement. I shall read that in a minute. A spokesman for 10 Downing Street has produced a statement. I shall read that in a minute. But let's remind ourselves of what's come to light since yesterday and what it is that Al-Fatah has actually said in the past. I seriously, seriously, seriously hate white people, especially those of English or Dutch or German descent, which is essentially all white people. Unequivocal. A statement from Al-Fatah himself. He doesn't actually say he's going to do something about it himself, but he makes it incredibly clear that he hates white people. Hates them. English, Dutch, German. Well, he now lives in England. He lives in Brighton. Okay? So I wonder what his views are now. He has a British passport. Britain is still significantly white. It's still a significantly Christian country. Look, however, he does go on to say, as always, my consolation is that Europeans have adopted voluntary extinction by failing to breed just a few more decades and it will be over. So he wants to see the end of white Europeans. Now, we'll go to his statement in a minute. He's essentially saying he was... By the way, he's 44 now, so he's a couple of years younger than me. And at the time of writing these, he was in his late 20s, early 30s. And we're expected to believe that that's an acceptable age to have this anger during the uprising in Egypt, the Arab Spring in 2011. We're expected to believe that it's acceptable that because he was angry about what was going on in his own country at that point, that this would justify this. Now, if that's the case, then we need to apologise to Lucy Conolly, because she was angry about what was going on in her country at that time. But she didn't wish them all dead. Everybody of a certain colour dead. Everybody of a certain religion dead. She didn't wish that. He has done that. Like I say, most of these tweets were written 2009, 2010, 2011, during the Arab Spring, the uprising in Egypt. He was considered a very vocal activist and therefore appealed very much to the liberal left-leaning activists in this country who are willing to turn a blind eye to absolutely everything else, it would seem. But in 2012, after all of this, he wrote this: "Living in South Africa in general has convinced me that violence is acceptable and that the extermination of whites is a desirable thing." The extermination of whites is a desirable thing. This was written 9 years before the Conservative government gave him a British passport in 2021, purely for political reasons, so they could convince Egypt to release him and bring him back to this country. The man's not British. He's nowhere near British, but he can claim to be British because he is now a British citizen by way of his passport. But he's not British, obviously. And 13 years before this Labour government, under the premiership of Sir Keir Starmer and his cabinet of absolute idiots, opened their arms, rolled out the red carpet, told us it was their first and major priority to bring this man home, in inverted commas. So it's no wonder he celebrated like this. After reviewing the historic posts, Mr. Abd El-Fatah said, "I do understand how shocking and hurtful they are, and for that I unequivocally apologise." He added, "I am shaken that, just as I am being reunited with my family for the first time in 12 years, several historic tweets of mine have been republished and used to question and attack my integrity and values, escalating to calls for my revocation and escalating to calls for the revocation of my citizenship." Citizenship. This was the first time the guy had been in the UK, I think. He was only given a passport in 2021. And the first part of that, this is what drives me nuts about this stuff. The first part of that statement is like, yeah, I feel really bad about this. I unequivocally apologise. Unequivocally means without question whatsoever, right? And then he goes on to say how shaken he is that these posts have come out and it's threatening his integrity, threatening his values. His integrity and his values. Are you taking the piss? This is the guy who said he wants white people dead. This is the guy who said he wants all Zionists and Jews dead. His integrity and values. He does not apologise unequivocally. He apologises just enough to appease whoever he needs to appease to stay in this country. And then the article goes on to explain the government and Keir Starmer's reaction to this. Keir Starmer has been criticised for saying he was delighted by Mr. Abd El-Fattah's arrival in the UK on Friday, 3 months after he was freed from prison in Egypt, but he's understood he was unaware of the historical messages. How could he not have been? How could he not have been aware? And we know that he probably was aware. I can't prove it, but we know that he probably was aware. Okay? It's unfathomable to think that he was not aware of this. The man is a known liar, and I'm sure he's lying again. But anyway, the Prime Minister's official spokesman said, "We welcome the return of a British citizen unfairly detained abroad, as we would in all cases, as we have done in the past." He added that the government, not him, the government has condemned the nature of these historic tweets and we consider them abhorrent. everything's just a nothing burger. Everything's absolutely and utterly without moral value whatsoever. I don't know what to say at this point. That message basically says, we made him a British citizen and we'd do anything for a British citizen, irrespective of what they said and did. Well, I don't believe that's true, and Lucy Conolly's living, breathing evidence of that. And he goes on to say that he's still pleased. He wasn't aware of the tweets. They were abhorrent, so therefore they were bad. But nonetheless, nothing's going to change. Remarkable stuff. Absolutely remarkable stuff. I said this yesterday. It creates an incredibly destructive divide between those who know what's going on and those that are willing to be gaslit. Here's Keir Starmer saying, well, this was historic. It was bad, but he's a British citizen, so we'll look after him. Well, Lucy Conolly is a British citizen. Lucy Conolly still is a British citizen, was born in this country, and stands for British values. This man clearly does not stand for British values. He's not a British citizen, and it's just happenstance that he is. It was a political move to make sure this could happen. There's much more to this than meets the eye. We may never find out why. But one thing it will do is it will cement in the mind of people that think like I that this man is not fit to govern Great Britain. And here's another reason why. Here's him in 2022 talking in the Houses of Parliament as leader of the opposition to Rishi Sunak about people being imprisoned for a social media post.
And can I start by raising the case of Alaa Abd El-Fatah?
Yes.
As the Prime Minister knows and has said, he's a British citizen, jailed for the crime of posting on social media and been imprisoned in Egypt for most of the last 9 years. He's been on hunger strike for the last 6 months. Now, the Prime Minister just said that he raised it with President Sisi. Can he tell us what progress he made in securing Alaa's release?
Sorry, what was that you said, Starmer?
Jailed for the crime of posting on social media.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again today. It's moments like these that should end his premiership. But they won't. They won't. He has made a very, very clear two-tier system. If you are one type of person, you can say what you like. You can apologise and move on. If you are another type of person, you cannot say what you want to say, and no apology will make any difference whatsoever, and you will go to prison away from your family for well over a year. For well over a year for typing on social media.
Jailed for the crime of posting on social media.
What an absolute 22-carat knobhead. Unbelievable. Anyway, I need to go and lay down in a dark room again and close my eyes and think of England. A glorious time long before today. But if you like this content, please do subscribe, hit the like button, share with friends, spread the word. Maybe go to my Substack and join up and pay £5 a month, just £5 a month, to help me deliver more content like this. But until next time, everyone, keep it real.